It's really hard because I've never
We're
had...
gonna share one mic, or
We're gonna share one mic. I've never had to pronounce your name in front of you.
Right. Well, you screwed it up.
I did.
So there's a guy named Eddie, and he's got to pay a fee. There's a fee, Eddie. That's it. That's the whole word. That's the whole name right there.
We have to put there has to be a good SEO on that.
There's got to be. No, it's in Italian. ERI is the last name. So Fieri. You roll that into it. Nobody can roll anything. So there's a guy named Eddie, and he's got to pay a fee. There's a fee, Eddie. And if it fixes it every time.
Well, let's sit down now.
Okay, very nice. Hi, guys. What'd you think of that show? Here's one person in this audience who wants to kill me right now. Where is she? Antonia, where are you? Yeah, I told you that blender piece was not going to make it in there, but it did. Right after we walked out of that, she said, oh, that's Antonia LaFaso, by the way, the great one. Antonia is the equivalent of my little sister on so many levels, and we did that show together. We had a blast, and we were doing that. We were messing around. We couldn't get that mixer to work. The cord was broken, and it was shorting out. And there's one part where she's holding it so it won't short out, so we can finish the scene. And that was happening, and all of a sudden that blonde, and she looked at me and she goes, "You don't air that." I'm like, "Antonia, of course I'm not going to air that." Silly.
You've anchored so many episodes of Triple D by yourself, though. Is it easier to have a buddy with you, especially if you maybe don't see the qualities in a dish that maybe your friend does?
It's so much more exciting to have someone else on the show. You know what it is? There's very few people that can do it. I'm really my son Hunter, who's here with me. I don't know where he's sitting right there. Hunter can do it, but Hunter's been taking that abuse for a long time. So you have to be really fast. I talk really fast. I move really fast. I mean, we've got a lot going on. We shoot through 3 locations in a day. And it started out, when we first started Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, we shot 1 location every 2 days. So we have really changed the way we produce. The shows are much better now, without any question. But you have to be super fast, you have to be super witty, and you have to be you have to be a great chef to be able to follow that recipe build and to know when to interject and when to participate. And there's only a few that have ever been able to do it as well. I don't think anybody's probably done it as great as Antonia. I say all the time, they're going to knock me off and give the show to Antonia, I swear.
Your schedule's also gotten a little bit busier since the earlier seasons, I would say.
Yeah, a couple things. We were just shooting, matter of fact, we're shooting Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives right now in Palm Springs. So this morning we got up at 5 a.m., flew to Palm Springs, shot 3 locations today, wrapped, flew over here to come see all your smiling faces and feed you some great food and tequila. Right? Great food and tequila. And then we'll fly back tonight and we'll shoot 3 locations tomorrow. And then every time I go into a town, I try to do something to benefit veterans and first responders. So tomorrow, in between the break, thank you to all of our vets and our first responders and all the families. But we're going to make a little break in between it, and we're going to go and feed 600 veterans tomorrow in Palm Springs. We feed them a free lunch just to say thank you and we love you and you're awesome people and Freedom Ain't Free and we wouldn't have it without you. And it's great to watch these soldiers, men and women, bring their families and meet these grandkids. And I look at the grandkid, they look at me, they want my autograph. And I said, you know, I want your grandpa's autograph. That guy, you know what he did for our country? So it's a kind of a neat full circle thing. But yeah, I got a couple things going on these days.
So these places get incredibly busy once you've gone. Can you give us a little heads up on where you're going in Palm Springs? Or do you not remember the name? I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there are some tips.
Go ahead and write these all down right now. So that's the first 3. I know you're able to get those. You know, we try not, it gets leaked all the time, which we're not too hung up about. We don't want it to get leaked before we get there because it's already a hot mess when we roll into town. As soon as that red Camaro starts driving around, people start, sirens go off and marches happen and positive marches, positive. But no, we shot there a couple years ago and we try to go back. We do another show called Triple D Nation, which is about going back and just seeing how these places have done and what their stories are. I met with a family today, a place called Grill-A-Burger. really neat family that bought this concept, bought this burger joint, and I haven't seen it for 5 years. And the kids have put on age, and the one's going to graduate from college. And we sat there and had the neatest meeting, and just looking at the mom, we sat there and talked about it. She's like, nobody could ever prepare us for what was going to happen. It's like winning the restaurant lottery. It changed our lives. Our kids are going to different schools. We're going to open another location. And it gives me goosebumps to hear it, because as a chef and as a small restaurant owner myself, that's the whole reason I did the show, was because I knew that if we put the spotlight on these people, these are the kinds of places that everybody in this room wants to go to, and unless you have a friend that tells you about it, or you just happen to stumble upon it, they never have the advertising budget or the marketing budget or the rent structure to be in that main strip area that you'd find them. And so that's how that was the whole genesis of how the show started 14 years ago, was I knew that I would love someone to come to my restaurant and do that. And I said, if I would love it, then I bet you there's almost 1,500 locations now that we've done that would love it. So.
Well, how did that scouting process change? Because 14 years ago, you had no idea what you were going to be doing to those businesses, and they get slammed. Like, it's an amazing opportunity for them. So how's the scouting process changed?
Well, a lot of it is dartboard, like that, just throwing the dart. And then we did Ouija board. That was freaky. We did that, name out of the hat. We did that one too. Those didn't do something. No, we spent a tremendous amount of time. The last segment you saw there was a girl named Stephanie Elmer, and Stephanie's been with us for 14 years, and she was one of our main researchers, the only researcher actually we had when we started the show. And I have a huge criteria about what it's got to be. I mean, I'm probably the most. I'm not a food critic by no means. I never want to be called that. I'm just a resource center. But as a chef, I have a real expectation for the kind of places that I'm going to. The health department's got to be right. They can't. I'm not sending people getting them sick. It's got to have a genuine story. It's got to have genuine character. It's got to make real food. And so when I started to put that criteria together and show our research team what I was looking for, I mean, we have research meetings to go over it, to learn it. Right now we have like 12 researchers. That we're always curating information, because we don't know where I'm going to pick. Like, I'm going here this week. And that's really what happens. But we have a huge expectation, a lot of criteria, and it's so difficult when your friends say, next time you go to Nashville, you got to go to this place, which I was just doing research in Nashville when you came in. You got to go to this place, and we get there, and I'll look it up, and their soups come in a can. Their soup come in a big bladder, a big box. And if they're not making their soup, then I'm probably, and not that I'm have a hang up. I mean, there's good soups in a box. But I've got so many restaurants that are scratch made that people, because that's one of the only ways you can really make it in this business is really being able to, you got to make the chicken stock versus buy it. And now we talk about that from a economical standpoint, but from a flavor profile, it's a huge difference. So there's all these little nuances inside of that, but I produce it from a chef's perspective. And that's, I think, probably the foundation of why it's continued on so long, because people, when they go there, can hopefully count on me that it's going to be the real deal.
I mean, look at that woman at that vegan restaurant. She was doing absolutely everything. She made everything from scratch.
So we were talking about that in the green room just a moment ago, and people were saying, why do they call fake bacon bacon? And I said, in her situation, she had to have fake bacon because she had had cancer, and she needed to change her diet. So certain people want to eat for certain reasons. I shame nobody in their preference of food. Eat whatever you want as long as it makes you happy. Be responsible with it, doesn't mean you have to eat it all. But this, thank you. I'll be here all night. Try the lasagna. But I'll tell you what it is. She made that, and she wanted to have that replacement flavor and texture of crispy bacon bits, and so that's why she made that. But I will that restaurant, and the reason I profile, so I'm really big into vegan, vegetarian food. Huge. I cook a lot of vegetarian at home. Thank you. I cook a lot of vegetarian. My little sister had this big tattoo in my arm. I lost my little sister to cancer 12 years ago, but she was a great vegan, vegetarian cook, and that's where I really learned how to cook, is from her in the vegan, vegetarian space. And we just don't have enough grip on it. So whenever I find restaurants like hers, even in Puerto Rico, the home of Great Mofongo, I got to go check it out. And that place right there, that's worth buying a plane ticket to go to Puerto Rico to get your mind blown, because that's how good the food was.
Everyone should go to Puerto Rico if you haven't been, by the way. It's fantastic.
Good people.
You were really beating the drum for restaurant relief, food industry worker relief during COVID. Now that we have moved on to an extent, what should the everyday consumer and restaurant goer be thinking about in terms of how to help this industry that was just so kneecapped by what happened? It's not over.
No, it's not over, and the climate of the restaurant industry will forever have changed. I mean, it's never going to be the way it was. And one thing about restaurant owners, the way we are, is we are the jack of all trades and not usually the master of any of them. Some are, don't get me wrong, I say that kind of jokingly, but the restaurant industry is, you go to the restaurant industry if you love to be a problem solver, and if you love people, and if you love challenge, because we figure out how to make it work. We become electricians and plumbers and everything. I mean, when Hunter was in high school, he's play sports or go work in the restaurants. So went and worked in the restaurants. And you have to learn it all. You have to know you cannot get away in the restaurant industry if you're an owner without knowing how to do every job that needs to be done. And the industry's now changed a little. We have a workforce issue. There's a little bit of a concern going on with that. So how can you help your fellow restaurants? Well, eat out more often. The great S.E. Rykoff, that was what they put on their trucks. Enjoy life, eat out more often. Recommend. I mean, social media is one of the greatest things in the world in that aspect, because it's a great way for you to tell your friends and your family and anybody you interact with to go check these places out. You do my job. Don't take me out of business, please. I think I'm pay some bills, keep us in college. There's just so many great ways. Positive energy is always my favorite thing. To recognize, everybody gets pissed that the thing was wrong and the delivery got screwed up and the reservation wasn't on time. Don't go, come on, go and create such a negative shadow on something that just because you're in a pissy moment and you're hungry. When you get hangry, people are the toughest to deal with. I love those commercials that they make with the hangry commercials. You see that with the candy bar? But the way to help is, and then the other one is to go encourage people to go back to work and go get involved in their restaurants, because restaurants are one of the greatest employers in the world. And the reason is because a lot of there are a lot of people that are in the restaurant business. It's a second job. It's super flexible with its hours. And you don't have to know a lot to get into it, especially to be the general manager. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to know a lot, because it's a great proving ground. You can come in and you work hard and you get educated and you learn and you develop. It teaches you people skills. It teaches you communication skills, sales building, time management. I mean, there's so many things in there. I see if you could make it in the restaurant business, you could probably make it in most industries.
We're primarily here to talk about, we can applaud that.
Oh, one clap. I don't try to get preachy with it. I really don't. I've been supporting the restaurant industry. My foundation, the Guy Fieri Foundation, we do a lot to inspire the younger generation to be involved in this. And I tell kids all the time at these culinary schools, we just made a $20,000 donation to a high school, a vocational school in Florida. And I said to the kids, I'm not here to preach to you to get a job or to learn how to cook, to be a cook. I'm just teaching you. I want you to learn to have a life skill. Kids, this is really a thing. This is soapbox time. Kids, one of the first decisions they can ever make in their life is the decision about what they're going to eat. Mm-hmm. And if we could teach kids that the decision that they make and how it affects them mentally, physically, all these things, like loading your kid up with sugar, we all know that crash that happens. So we can teach kids about making good, educated decisions about what they eat. They can learn from that. That's probably one of the quickest skills, or one of the quickest abilities they have to see the cause and effect. And if we can teach them about that, then maybe they'll take on those same ideals when it comes into making other types of decisions, like other things that they're putting in their body. But food is really a super important life skill that kids need to learn how to, and the difference between what's good for you and what's bad for you, what's a good burger and what's one that you shouldn't probably eat.
The impetus for tonight's dissection.
The dissection will
The
start later, folks.
The dissection, it'll be part of the meal portion of the evening. Triple D, TOC. I have a
RSVP.
RSVP. I always RSVP for Triple G. Tell me a little bit about the decision to sort of overhaul Guy's Grocery Games and the supermarket?
You know, if it's not broke, fix it. Isn't that the way we say it? Like, if you're doing good with something, why not screw it up and do it again? Now, you know, Guys Grocery Games really was a funny story about how that started. All the shows that I do are funny stories, and I have so much passion about them. I work a lot, as you said, you know my schedule, it's crazy, but the whole foundation of that show is I have the diners, drive-ins, and dives people that own restaurants, and they get recognized and supported. There's a lot of people in the industry that don't own restaurants, that don't get the love and support, and don't get the recognition that they deserve. And I thought, how could I make something where I could give the highlight to cooks and to people that, you know, but really give them highlight, you know, not just like, you know, here you, but like really see what they could do. And we came up with the grocery games, a little bit of the what was the old shopping show? What was it called? Supermarket Suite. Yeah. So it was kind of like that. But I said it had to be at a different level. It had to be really chefed. I mean, the grocery store has to be the greatest grocery store in the world, which it is. I shop there every day after work. I shop there. All the chefs want to shop there. I mean, what grocery store do you walk into? There's truffles and morel mushrooms. Caviar. But that was the thing, is I wanted to make the show, and I've got the best, my team at Food Network, I'm telling you, I come up with the craziest plays, and I get all these opportunities, and as long as I can prove it, or die, no, but as long as I can prove it, then we can do it. And this Grocery Games has blown up, and we're in our 8th year now. We've given over $5 million. We've had over 1,500 chefs on the show. We've supported every faction of the military. We've first responder. I mean, you name it, we have fulfilled so many dreams inside of that show. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, and also, where does the food in that grocery store go well before it expires?
Look at this guy teeing me up. So we run the grocery store as a real grocery store, okay? We run the grocery store as a real grocery store. We have the PUC code, UPC, whatever the code, you know the code, that code. And we know before something expires. So if the milk is going to go bad, or the bread's going to go bad, or the eggs are going to go bad, or anything on the shelf is going to expire in the can, we know it ahead of time. And then we can pull it from the shelf a week ahead of time, and we donate it. We donate over $350,000 of food to the food bank a year. And it's overwhelming to see the response. And then when we close the show for the, you know, we shoot it 4 times a year, but when we close the show and we have to empty the majority of the shelves, but there's so many people in our community. We live in the wine country, and the wine country has a lot of people who are doing really well, and then a ton of people that are not doing really well. So to have it up there in my hometown, it does a lot for tourism, brings a lot of chefs in, brings a lot of attention, gives a lot of room sales, a lot of car rentals, it brings a lot of money into the community. So, but again, that's the support I get from the network when I bring up the idea of I want to do this in my hometown, and it's not a TV, you know, it's not a TV movie town. So.
We're going to tee it up to y'all in a moment, so if you have a question, there are microphones on, I don't know the difference between stage left and
told me
right,
that was
but they're
karaoke.
both. So if you do have a question for Guy, please approach the microphone at any old time. Antonia.
Do not let
but
her.
I have had this like burning question for the last couple of years. How do you engineer a television show where you have both something called the randomizer and someone like Nancy Silverton just eager to participate? Like the juxtaposition of sort of like silly TV and the most legit chefs that you can think of. It's wild. How did this show happen?
I don't want to talk about it because someone will steal that ridiculous idea. No, I don't know how it came about. Again, it was that whole idea. I said, okay, Iron Chef is gone. Great show. Can't thank enough all the Iron Chefs, what they did, and the foundation they gave us. And I said, we need another level. I've got these chefs coming to Guys Grocery Games, and they're crushing. And these chefs, you know, doing such a great job in diners, drive-ins, and dives. I need to create a platform that we can start to celebrate people, because chefs are the new rock stars. You know, and I really wanted to make something that was about them and if you've seen the show, if you've seen TOC, Tournament of Champions, we make the tail of the tape like they're fighters, like they're UFC or they're, you know, they're boxers. They come out, they have their tag, they have their name, they have their nickname, and we give the tail of the tape and we put their board up and the whole thing. And I did that whole reason, that intro music, all these things. Gives me goosebumps talking. I did this whole thing because these are my brothers and sisters. These are people I love so much. And I'm trying to champion them. And it was, again, one of those shows that, really, there's a couple people sitting in the front audience that if they hadn't signed off on that show wouldn't have happened. All the way down to having a live audience. I said, you gotta have a live audience. You can't have people come in and give you blood, sweat, and tears. You can't have go, really after it if you're not gonna have a live audience. And so we did that show, and it was, you know what it is the other chefs, Nancy Silverton, Eric Repair, Ming Tsai, Jonathan Waxman, I mean, you name all the chefs that have been there that have judged for us. Morimoto, you just took the punch, yeah. But you get Chef Morimoto, and the thing is they all recognize that it is, without question, probably one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult culinary challenge there is, because the randomizer, which I'll tell you that story, the randomizer made it so no two competitions will ever be the same. And I wanted it to be that way. They wanted to, the team wanted to make it digital. So it would go beep, 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 like a digital slot machine. I said, no way, because people will think if it goes digital, it's not the old school Wheel of Fortune or the old school Price is Right wheel. They'll say, nah, fixed. You guys put that crazy combination. I said, it has to be that really old clickety-click wheel. So we made the real old clickety-click. The people that made the clickety-click wheel had them make us a clickety-click wheel. So, no kidding, I'm standing there. All right, we're starting the show in 5 minutes. Great. Hey, what do you call the big machine? Gosh, damn, I don't know. I don't know. Let's go to the randomizer. I mean, like I was making it up, like the stupidest little kid name you'd make for something. It was like, randomizer sounds good. Randomizer, that's good. So the randomizer stuck. And it's fear. People have nightmares about the randomizer. It's really bad. I mean, like, we have to, have, insurance because people are so randomized.
I am not a professional cook, but I like to cook, and I found the randomizer this season to be cruel.
We're going to make an at-home randomizer that your kids can have, like, all right, Mom. No, and it's a tough one because it's any given Sunday type situation. You got 30 minutes to cook your ass off and do the best you can. And I watch people that crash and burn, and it's painful. And I'm back there, my son Hunter's one of the reporters, and back there picking up the tears and trying to encourage people to not stop and come back and do this again. And then you watch people that champion from the next level, from a level that they never thought they'd ever see themselves at, and they win $100,000 in they're gonna win a new truck, and more importantly than any of that is they win that belt and they win that title, and they are now forever introduced as a TOC champ. And that was the whole goal, is to be able to give my brothers and sisters that crown of achievement that would always be with them and they would always be represented by. That was the whole deal.
So far, it's just your sisters. Men do not fare well on TOC. We have questions. I'm gonna first throw to the gentleman in the hat right here.
He was waiting first, but.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm. You're both.
I didn't take a number. It's okay. Let me go.
Probably gonna steal your question.
All right, it's me. So there's a couple broad different kinds of shows. There's informational, how-to, and competitive. And what I'm curious about in terms of the competitive shows, do most chefs have an instinctive competitive spirit when it comes to this endeavor? Because I love to cook, but I wouldn't want to compete in the kitchen.
Well, I think that as your success in your kitchen grows, and you start looking at somebody like one of your peers that may cook a lot like you, I do think that there's that natural kind of like, so Larry, what did you bring to the potluck? Because I brought some ass-kicking enchiladas. So there is that thing. I do another show called Guy's Ranch Kitchen, which I do up at my ranch in Northern California. Thank you. One of the last cooking shows. I mean, this to me is one of the most legit cooking shows ever been done. And what it is, I bring four chefs at a time, and everybody comes up and stays at the ranch for a week. It's a gigantic hangout. It's awesome. But the thing is it's not intended to be a cook-off. But everybody is kind of, we make it. Huh. Okay, we'll see about that. And then I watch people changing the recipe over here. I'm like, you weren't ever putting sausage in with the mussels. What are you doing then? I think it's inherent that we do that. I'm in competition all the time. I'm in competition with myself about cooking, about can I do it better than I did last time. But that's part of what the drive is. It's not to negative about anybody. It's about pushing ourselves to be better. That's what chefs really are, is we push ourselves harder than anybody will ever push us. That's when I know somebody's really going to be a chef, is when I have to drag them off of it and say, enough, go home. You've done, your day's gone far enough. But great question, and you got to watch some of this, the real underlying tones of what go on, because these folks will go through, we all, and I don't compete anymore, but we all go through blood, sweat, and tears to get it done. Okay, love the question.
Polite hat man.
Thank you. What's up, guy? I wanted to ask, have you had any show ideas that didn't make it or were too crazy, even for Food Network?
I had this show called Food Network, Buy Me a New Car Every Week. Tournament of Champions wasn't happening. It wasn't happening for 3 years. I mean, I fought about that show forever. And I appreciate that it didn't work 3 years before it happened, because I love what it became. And it's kind of like a recipe. I say this all the time, especially with the chefs that are competing on any one of these shows. It's the first time they're probably making that dish. The old lamb's tongue spiralizer, pressure cooker, rutabaga, German schnitzel, that old famous family heirloom dish. So the first time it comes out, we usually will modify it from there. So we have a great sounding board, a great team, tons of collaborative. I'm working on shows all the time for all my brothers and sisters. I'm trying to, I've done my pieces and what I like. I mean, I'll be doing Triple D in a walker. They're not going to let me go. That's Big Boss is shaking her head right there like, you're damn right about that. Yeah, there's a lot of shows, and we do pilots that are airable, and then we do pilots that are not airable. COVID was a crazy time. We shot a few or three. My production company, I work with two teams. One is Citizen Pictures, and this guy over here named Frank Matson, who's sitting next to my son Hunter. Great guy. Owns the production company Citizen Pictures. Comes with me to every shoot that we do Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives with. Almost every shoot. But we're developing stuff all the time, and sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. We just did a new development show for a great chef, a daytime chef, that we shot up in Guy's Grocery Games in that building. But we don't take it as discouragement. It's kind of like making a special on the menu on a Saturday night, making a chef's creation. We think it's going to sell. It's the greatest thing we've ever done, and we sold 2. Okay, back to the drawing board on that one. And so that goes on quite a bit, but without discouragement. I'm trying to break the mold every day about how we can make better TV and make it more engaging, and so it's not just competition, or it's to really make sure, because I think one of the things that folks want from Food Network, or I want from Food Network, is education. And one of the things I was taught early on is, what is the takeaway for the guest or for the viewer? Are they watching the show? Are they getting a recipe idea? Are they getting a technique? Are they getting a location? Are they getting a funny story? What are they? They always have to have a takeaway. And so I try to make sure that as you watch or survive through Triple D tonight, I try to make sure that I fulfill all those different boxes. And so when I do develop other shows, that's the same thing that tries to happen. That's a big answer.
First of all, I have to say thank you. You got me through the pandemic, and I think you probably got a lot of us through the pandemic. Also inspired me how to cook during the pandemic, and I'm getting there. You
want to compete?
God, no.
There's a dude right over here that says he makes enchiladas that will kick.
I'll compete with you on the eating, not so much the cooking. But you were such a hard worker and have so much going on. What do you do to relax? How do you get zen? Long pause.
I'm unfamiliar with the word. What does it mean? You know what? I've got an amazing family, great friends. I got a big ranch in Northern California. I'm a huge outdoors guy. Love to exercise. Love to hike. I love to do charity. That to me, I feel really blessed to be in the position that I'm in. I was raised by hippie parents in Northern California, not dope smoking hippies. I always have to say that. I was like, you tell people were hippies in the 70s, they didn't think we're all assholes. They weren't that good. They were just long hair people. Made leather belts and candles. But I was raised with a real strong sense of community. So are my boys. My sons really are too. And so that's what I get a big charge out of. I'm in the middle of shooting Triple D, and I really could take a break between those, but we're going to go feed those veterans and feed their families. To me, that is just like the most recharging, refilling heart piece to me, because there's so many people that are without, and I'm not saying that we can take care of everybody's situation, but definitely for people that gave blood, sweat, and tears, that gave way more than we'll ever recognize, they gave to our country, them and their families. That just for me is one of the spots. So it's that kind of stuff. But I also like to have fun. I get a little rowdy once in a while, you know, and that's hard to believe. Go out for pizza, you know. Ice plunge.
We have time for one more question.
Which was your most memorable destination of all of the seasons?
What's your name?
Arthur Cohen?
Arthur?
Yes.
It's a great name, Arthur. Distinguished. Arthur, who's your best friend?
I have a lot, but...
There you go, Arthur. Thank you. Thank you very much. Gosh, I was so worried. Lloyd's my best friend. You know, Arthur, I'm going to explain it to you this way, buddy. When you have that friend of yours, and you go to Disneyland, or you go to the park, and you're just having the best day, okay, when you're with that friend. And you look at that friend, and you're like, gosh, you're my best friend. You're like the coolest person I know. And you're having that feeling. I have those feelings all the time. Because when you're present in the moment, that's the hippie stuff. When you're really present in the moment with people, I have to remember that every single Triple D that I visit, I have to give them 110% of me. I have to make sure, I have very strict rules about how I go into a Triple D, what I do before the day before I go to Triple D. I mean, all these crazy things. I was at French Laundry, not dropping this, but I'm just telling you the thing. Having dinner, not drinking any wine, because I don't go to work hungover when I do Triple D. I mean, I have really set rules. I know you don't understand this yet. But I'll say to you this. When you're there, and when you're with that buddy, and you're hanging out at that moment, you're like, this is the coolest time on the swing set. I have those every place, try to have those every place I go. I shot a place today that was in an old apartment, a little studio building, in a rundown old little apartment building in Palm Springs, in an alley where a kid that had a really hard life decided to save his own life and open a crepe shop by opening up the window in the door, had crepe makers inside of this old apartment, made crepes and served them out the window, changed his life, and now is getting ready to open a much bigger location. And when you get to sit there in the presence of somebody like that, it's like mind-blowing, and that's my favorite place. You know, so it's hard to say that it's one, but there really are. When I tell you that I love it on the show, or this is like people come and say, I can tell when you like it, I can tell when you love it, I can tell when you lose your mind. Those are real things, you know? Those are real feelings and real emotions and real connections, but it's almost impossible to tell you, because right now that crepe place, right up at the top, okay? And that was today. Who knows what's going on?
Legit. We have one more question.
Hi, I came all the way from Birmingham, Alabama to ask you this question. But I want to know, out of all the food, all the places that you go over all of the years, because I totally grew up watching this show, when, or just what is your most impactful moment from this experience?
Well, that kind of goes along with my buddy Arthur. Keep in touch, buddy. Tell Lloyd I said hi to. They are so deep and so long and so amazing and so tear-jerking. And I mean, from, you know, I'll tell you one of my most impactful is Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I do a lot of work with Make-A-Wish Foundation. I think it's one of the most incredible things. Like I said, I lost my little sister to cancer. She had cancer when she was a little kid, and she beat it for 38 years, lived a healthy, amazing life. But I remember being in the hospital with her when she was 4, and I was 5 years older than her. And I just remember when people would come to the hospital, football players, this in San Francisco, would come to the foot, it changed everybody's tune. Everybody had a little break in the day because the football players were here. Nobody was thinking about cancer, and People are smiling, things are good things are happening. So I always thought, man, if I ever was in that kind of position where something that I did was going to make people feel better, that I would surely want to do that. So I've had so many Make-A-Wish kids and their families. I bring the whole family, by the way. I don't want just a kid. And the reason is because the whole family's going through cancer, not just the child. And the siblings are going through cancer, and they're watching their sibling get this attention, and they know that there's something special going on or something unique. So I bring them all in. And I just have goosebumps right on my back because I get this without just surprising telling you, so I'm tearing up. And we have these kids and their families on the show, and we make sure that the whole family has the experience. They all get in the car, or they all come in the kitchen at Guys Grocery Games and cook, or they all get the picture. We do this whole thing, and I'll just break your heart to tell you that I have way too many emails and letters written to me that say, we lost our child, but we have the DVD you sent us that is like the last or one of the greatest captured moments that we got to spend as a family. And you just have to do that one time and have that one experience, and you'll, and in my world, commit to doing it for the rest of my life.
I mean, you do great work on camera, and you really do incredible work in real life. So I appreciate you being here this evening, and I'm getting hungry. I feel like we should all go out to the reception.
And thank you. We had a great meeting, and this is a real honor that you came to do this. You wrote one of the best articles, probably the greatest article that I've had written about me. It was the most succinct, the most on point, to the point where I had the article, we cut the magazine apart and framed it. But he captured every bit of it, and so when I was told that you were the one that was going to moderate this, or let me babble, I guess, it really means a lot. But thank you all very much for taking the time. This is really important. We have a lot of things you can be doing tonight, and sharing with me is great. So enjoy great food, great beverage, all kinds of good stuff happening out there. Juggling, not by me. Nice to meet y'all. Thank you, brother.